Hello everyone. So today we are going to talk about obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. We all must have heard someone telling us or us telling someone that, oh, are you suffering from OCD? Oh, are you having OCD? Yes, so now let us understand what OCD is. So obsessive compulsive disorder is a mental health condition characterized by persistent recurring thoughts or images, and that creates that obsession, that are distressing, causing someone to carry out behavior, compulsion, in an attempt to neutralize or suppress the intrusive thoughts. So the behavior carried out to suppress the intrusive thoughts, the obsessions, the images and the thoughts. So this is what obsessive compulsive disorder is. And the obsessions and the compulsions are so prevalent that they interfere with day-to-day life, and the day-to-day life becomes a little messy for people suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder. So while obsessive compulsive disorder is typically characterized by the presence of both obsessions and compulsions, but in some cases of OCD, it is seen that only obsessions are present, and in some cases only compulsions are present, and in some cases both are present. So that is a very unique side of OCD, that like some people only have obsessions or only have compulsions, and some people have both. So those are three variations that we can see in obsessive compulsive disorder. And of course it usually takes up a lot of time, and it gets in the way of daily activities. So people suffering from OCD, it really takes a lot of their time, and it makes simple things challenging for them. So they do suffer. We can't deny that they don't suffer. They do suffer. Now let us understand what are these obsessions, and what do these obsessions include. So some of these obsessions include harming, having obsessive fears about harming yourself or others. So that is also one of the obsessions that people suffering from OCD has, or they have it. The next one is contamination, having obsessive fears about germ or sickness. So that is again one of the obsessions that people with OCDs suffer from, or who have them. The next one is unacceptable thoughts, having taboo sexual, religious or aggressive intrusive thoughts. So that could also be one of the obsessions, unacceptable thoughts that people suffer from, or they face. The people who suffer from OCD face symmetry, having the need to keep things in order and symmetrical. So that is also one of the obsessions. So these obsessions are quite painful, because it goes on in the mind of the person suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder. Now there are some interesting ways these obsessions present themselves. The thought of losing control and violently hurting somebody. The next one is whether you have turned off the gas or not. Yes, a lot of people have this problem. Even I used to have, but now I have overcome. Whether I have really turned off the oven or not, or it's still running. Sometimes I do forget. I have experienced that. Fear of shaking hands with people or touching surfaces so that they don't get contaminated. Yes, that is also there. The other one is they have such levels of morality that something which is a little different from the idea of sex or religion in a person's mind. If there is something which is different from the idea of sex and religion, that image looks very taboo. That entire idea and concept an image or thing absolutely looks like taboo. So I mean, they have certain preconceived notions, or they have certain ways of perceiving things when it comes to sex and religion, but anything which is different from their perception, I mean, it's like a taboo and a shock for them. The next one is feeling extremely uneasy when things are not organized or symmetrically organized or color coded. So yes, a lot of people have this problem that they don't feel good when things are not sorted out symmetrically, or when things are not clean to perfection and all of that. So I'm sure we all must have seen some form of it, here and there in our daily lives, and amongst people whom we socialize and whom we are surrounded by. Now let's understand the compulsions. So compulsions are the behaviors or rituals that people with obsessive compulsive disorder carry out in an attempt to reduce the anxiety and distress. So those thoughts that were coming, the action put into so that those thoughts don't come again, that is what compulsion is all about. So sometimes people feel like they must engage in their compulsive behavior in order to stop those thoughts from coming, but it isn't like that. Sometimes when they engage in doing, still the thoughts keep coming, and that is the most painful part. If you see, compulsions aren't always physical actions, they can be mental too. Yes, it's not always physical, it can be mental too. Compulsions may be very temporary fix for coping with the worry of fear attached to obsessions, but the obsessions come back and the cycle repeats. So the compulsions are often to physically do something, and often it is mental as well. So compulsions are not always going and doing about it. Compulsions are again reprocessing it and thinking about it again and again. That is also compulsion. So by doing it, that doesn't put a full stop, it keeps coming back again. So there are a lot of cases who are very hygiene conscious, or who are very cleanliness conscious, or who bathe so many times and who don't touch things. I have seen such people who have even phobia of touching surfaces, so they wear gloves and they go out so that they don't contract any disease, or they are not infected. So I mean, to some it might look ridiculous, but trust me, it's quite a different level of suffering, of being aware that you are suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder, and it, and then you do it but you can't stop it. That's quite a choking experience. Now let us understand what are some of the compulsions like. So some of the compulsions are like checking that I've turned off the lights, turned off the oven, turned off the gas, lock the door properly, checking. Then cleaning, is this clean, or this should be clean more. Then comes counting, again recounting, have I missed something, let me count again. Then repeating, have I made it clear, or let me repeat it again. So these are also some forms of compulsions. Then avoidance, I mean like avoiding it. No, I don't have to address to it, let me avoid problems, let me avoid this thing, I don't want to face it. So that is also one of the compulsions. Then putting things in order, again, if things are not in order, you want to put it in a certain way so that you feel good and comfortable in and around that thing. And then seeking reassurance, I mean like constantly seeking reassurance that will this be okay, are you sure, will this be okay? Then going back home and calling up again, are you sure this will be fine, are you really sure about it? So these are some of the compulsions. It's quite painful. I have seen people really suffering because of obsessive compulsive disorder. So now some of the examples, let us understand some of the examples of compulsive behavior. Checking the oven again multiple times, checking hand washing, excessive hand washing, then repeating the same behavior a certain number of times, rearranging things in order and symmetry, asking friends and families or even doctors or authorities if everything is going to be okay, and that you won't lose control. So these are some of the compulsive behaviors that we can notice. Now let us understand, why does obsessive compulsive disorder, what causes obsessive compulsive disorder, and what are the risk factors. So there isn't one singular cause of OCD. Let me tell you, there's not one cause of OCD, and researchers are still not sure exactly what causes it. However, there are some theories out there and which talks about the risk factors that have been shown to contribute to obsessive compulsive disorder, and let us now discuss some of the theories. Now the first one is family history of obsessive compulsive disorder. Genetics does play a role in OCD. Someone with a family history of OCD is more likely to also have OCD, such as if someone's parent has OCD. Research has shown that in OCD cases, 20 to 40% of first degree relatives, meaning parents or siblings, have obsessional traits. Co-occurring mental health conditions. Having co-occurring mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety may contribute to developing OCD. History of trauma or high stress situation may trigger obsessive compulsive disorder. History of abuse. A history of abuse, physical abuse or sexual abuse, particularly during childhood, can make someone more likely to have obsessive compulsive disorder. Differences in parts of the brain. Through imaging studies, research has found evidence of abnormalities in certain parts of the brain, including the orbital frontal cortex (OFC), anterior cingulate cortex (ACC), and caudate nucleus in people who have obsessive compulsive disorder. In some cases, people may meet the criteria of multiple risk factors, which puts them at an even higher risk for developing OCD. So now let us understand what are some of the disorders related to OCD. Some of the disorders related to OCD. Skin picking. Yes, skin picking is one of the orders related to OCD. Like people keep on picking the skin. From their nail or from their thumb or from somewhere, they keep picking, and whenever they get that urge, they keep doing that. The next one is hair pulling disorder. People even pull their hair. Those who are, these are additionally seen in people suffering from OCD, where they keep pulling the hair. Then comes a body dysmorphic disorder, when someone is obsessed with someone else's body, and when someone just sees their body with a lot of flaws and problems, and then they don't like it. So body dysmorphic disorder is also a part of obsessive compulsive disorder. And hoarding disorder, again, collecting things and hoarding it up, hoarding books, hoarding toys. Hoarding is also one of the problems associated, or you can say related disorders with OCD. The next one is that OCD can also be induced by a medication or due to another medical condition. So in some cases, obsessive compulsive disorder may be caused by medications and or some substances. So for example, some studies have reported that certain antipsychotics may have induced obsessive compulsive disorder in some patients. Medical conditions can also cause obsessive compulsive disorder. So there are two ways that OCD can be treated. One is through therapy and the other is through medicine. And in therapy, of course, CBT is used, cognitive behavior therapy, and exposure and response prevention is used. Apart from that, some medications can also help. And medications like selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors can be used. I mean, it can be prescribed by the psychiatrist or under medical supervision. Tricyclic antidepressants TCA can also be prescribed by the psychiatrist, and antipsychotics can be used to manage as well. So in case if you all are suffering from OCD, or if some of your loved ones are suffering from OCD, do contact a mental health care professional and do seek out help. And yes, with therapy and medicine, OCD can be managed. So I hope you guys like the video, and do comment below in case if you have some OCD, and do like, share, subscribe the channel, and lots of love and blessings to all of you. And please take care of yourself, and everything can be managed, so it's not the end of the road.